What's good, YouTube? It's your boy, Blue Blood Sports TV, back at y'all with another one. So, welterweight star title contender, BLAIR COBBS, who is 15 wins, no losses, 1 draw, 10 wins by way of knockout, 32 years of age, 5'10.5" with a 71-inch arm reach. He has a fight coming up against Alexis Roca. That's coming up next Saturday. March 19th. He's the undercard, the co-main event to Vergil Ortiz Jr., undefeated Mexican superstar welterweight title contender. Vergil Ortiz Jr. will be that main event against Michael McKinson, undefeated United Kingdom star welterweight title contender. So with that said, he's doing a press conference to promote his fight, promote what he has going on. And BLAIR COBBS, he's stating that he's tired of these types of fights, okay? He's tired of fighting B and C level fighters. He wants to fight the best. Alexis Roca is 18 wins, 1 loss, no draw, 12 wins by way of knockout, 24 years of age, 5'10.5" with a 70-inch arm reach. His loss on his record, on his resume, was to Rashidi Speedy Ellis. That was Rashidi Ellis is 23 wins, no losses, no draw, 14 wins by way of knockout, 5'9.5" with a 72-inch arm reach. Okay, that's the last time Rashidi Ellis was seen in the ring. That was October 30th of 2020. Rashidi Ellis has been out the ring for 2 years. With that said, he put up a tough fight against Rashidi Ellis. Okay, Rashidi Ellis, you know, he won a unanimous decision, but it was a good showing for Alexis Roca. Okay, with that said, BLAIR COBBS, he's stating that Alexis Roca is a okay, good fighter, but he wants to fight the absolute best there is to offer. He wants to fight the champions, and he's simply tired of these B and C level fighters. No disrespect to Alexis Roca. Then he goes on to call out ERROL SPENCE Jr., undefeated unified WBC IBF welterweight world champion, who is widely considered by many to be top 3 best pound for pound fighters in the world. And he called out Terence Crawford, okay, undefeated WBO welterweight world champion, 3-division world champion, superstar boxer Terence Crawford, who's considered to be the best fighter in the world, okay, by many. They together make for the biggest fight in the sport of boxing. With that said, we know that BLAIR COBBS, Blair LaFlair, as he called himself, like Ric Flair, you know, he's good at marketing himself, okay. He's pretty up there in age for a guy that only has about 16 fights total, okay? You would expect BLAIR COBBS to have more fights than he has currently at 32 years of age. He's actually older than ERROL SPENCE Jr., and he's old, and he's not too far behind Terence Crawford, okay? So with that said, you know, he's calling out ERROL SPENCE and Terence Crawford, right? And he states that he wants to fight the absolute best. Now, we know he also called out rising welterweight superstar title contender Jerron Boots Ennis, stated that Boots Ennis is avoiding him and never been through anything. So his marketing is that, you know, his background, he's been through a lot in his background, his upbringing and through life. And he's saying that, you know, ERROL SPENCE is done. He stated that ERROL SPENCE is an alcoholic who's recovering and, you know, faced adversity, but he could see it in his eyes. He's no longer that guy. He's done. Okay. He stated that Terence Crawford hasn't had any rough, rugged fights. Terence Crawford, you know, his toughest fight was against Sean Porter, his last fight. And he's saying that Terence Crawford, you know, needs to be fighting him. He stated that ERROL SPENCE is going to lose his upcoming unification showdown with WBA Cuban star welterweight world champion YORDENIS UGAS. That's scheduled to take place April 16th, Arlington, Texas, AT&T Dallas Cowboys Stadium. So he states that he believes that YORDENIS UGAS, who shocked the world in the manner he dominated legendary 8-division world champion, iconic Filipino superstar boxer Manny "Pac-Man" Pacquiao, when he dominated Manny Pacquiao unanimous decision, he replaced ERROL SPENCE in that fight, oddly enough. ERROL SPENCE was supposed to fight Manny Pacquiao August 21st, but ERROL SPENCE suffered a broken detached retina, okay? And so, you know, ERROL SPENCE had to be replaced by YORDENIS UGAS, who was already the WBA super champion. So he dominated Manny Pacquiao. YORDENIS UGAS, he had a fight with Sean Porter. Many people thought he should have gotten the nod. He should have won the fight, but he didn't get the nod. He didn't win the fight. And YORDENIS UGAS is a very good fighter. He comes from the Cuban school of boxing, very technically sound, very sharp, very accurate with his punches, beautiful jab, but he doesn't pack a lot of power. So with that said, he is skilled. He's big at 5'9.5", but he has very short arms, 69-inch arms. Errol Spence has extremely long arms at 72-inch arms. So he has 3-inch arm reach advantage over YORDENIS UGAS. And so, Errol Spence is going to be the favorite. But he's stating that Errol Spence is done. Okay, he stated that Errol Spence is done. He's no longer the same guy. And he don't have it in his eyes. He's an alcoholic, okay, who's recovering. And he stated that, I've been through a lot. Now, the thing about Blair COBBS is he's signed with Golden Boy Promotions, Oscar De La Hoya, okay? He does have talent, but again, he hasn't had those big fights, and he's a testament to these guys avoiding him, okay? So he goes on to say that, Errol Spence is recovering alcoholic, and Terence Crawford is avoiding him, and Terence Crawford needs to be fighting him next. I say this, that's a good fight for Terence Crawford next, okay? Terence Crawford, doesn't have a fight coming up. Now, Blair COBBS doesn't offer Terence Crawford anything. He's not a superstar in the sport of boxing. He's never fought for a world title, nor has he ever won a world title. But, he's big, he's promotionable. It's a fight that Terence Crawford could use to stay active, okay? If nothing else. Not for, now Terence Crawford at 34 years of age, he's looking to fight the absolute best fighters and fights that's possible, okay? Terence Crawford don't want to have any stay busy fights, tune-up type of fights. He wants to fight former world champions or world champions. So with that said, listen to what Blair COBBS had to say.
It's a good fight. I think UGAS is gonna win. Honestly, I think UGAS is gonna win. When I look inside Errol Spence's eyes, I don't see a fighter that has the true fighting spirit anymore. He's defeated. He's defeated outside the ring. People need to understand that the real fight is outside the ring. And Errol Spence had to face some demons outside the ring with alcoholism and this and that, and dealing with hurt and all this other things. So we have to see what happens to him when he's tested outside the ring. All these other young fighters, I'd love to see what happens when they're tested outside the ring, because I've already been through the hellfire. I'm ready to go.
So he said that Errol Spence has finally been tested outside the ring. Well, he's failing to realize that Errol Spence suffered a horrific car accident just 12 days after unifying the titles against Showtime Sean Porter, and came back 14-month layoff and beat one of the best welterweights in the world, dominating two-division world champion Puerto Rican superstar boxer Danny Swift Garcia, and running away. And he was only 80% of himself, as he stated, and he was fatigued, obviously, had to get ring rust off, had to get his stamina down, and he dominated Danny Garcia, okay? So he faced adversity, and he came back from facing adversity, okay? Now you look at Terence Crawford. Again, these are fights that Blair COBBS, I understand he's lobbying for these fights. He wants these big fights, and he's running out of time. Like I said, at 32 years of age, time is not on his side. So he's calling out Jaron Boots Ennis, who is garnering a lot of attention, is seen as a phenom, is seen on deck to have next in the sport of boxing, be the next face of the sport of boxing. And he sparred and trained with Jaron Boots Ennis. So why not be able to try to capture that spotlight, okay? Or you look at Terence Crawford, Terence Crawford don't have a fight. Again, now, Terence Crawford, I'm sure, would much rather go the route of fighting Virgil Ortiz Jr., fighting Keith One-Time Thurman, fighting, Josh Taylor. These are the fights that he's looking for. But if he can't secure the fights, it's going to be hard to secure the fight with Josh Taylor because of the Josh Taylor's still with Top Rank, and Terence Crawford is soon with Top Rank. And when it comes to Keith Thurman, that seems to be perfect to me. Keith Thurman at this point in time seems like he's on the fence with a Terence Crawford fight. He wants to wait the route of the WBC route. And, so we have to see what's next for Terence Crawford. But this is a nice stay busy fight for Terence Crawford if he wants to. Virgil Ortiz don't seem eager to get in the ring with Terence Crawford. Maybe he calls out Terence Crawford after his fight March 19th, okay? He also does Blair COBBS. He also called out Virgil Ortiz, saying, he traveled on the path of least resistance. Nobody knows who Michael McKinson is. I agree. Why isn't Virgil Ortiz fighting Blair COBBS then? Blair COBBS is a much bigger commodity than Michael McKinson. Nobody knows who Michael McKinson is. Now, Blair COBBS is not the most well-known fighter in the world, but he's more well-known than Michael McKinson, right? So Terence Crawford, maybe it's a stay busy fight. Now, Blair COBBS is slick. He's big. He's strong. He has boxing ability. He's shown to have the dog in him. And so it'll be an interesting, entertaining fight for Terence Crawford. I think Terence Crawford wins. I think Errol Spence wins. So for the most part, I think that Blair COBBS is trying to place himself in that position. Errol Spence has faced adversity and he's overcome it. Now here's another task for him to overcome. A lot of people are seeming to pick YORDENIS UGAS over Errol Spence as well, because I believe it's a more so out of sight, out of mind. Okay, if this was in normal circumstances and Errol Spence, and rightfully so, he's only fought once in 2.5 years. So I understand the out of sight, out of mind part. But if this was normal circumstances, not too many people will be picking YORDENIS UGAS to win this fight. So I like Virgil Ortiz versus Blair COBBS, but let's see what Blair COBBS does, with Alexis Roca, and then maybe Terence Crawford takes that route. So we got to see how this unfolds. But I just look at it, Blair COBBS is just promoting himself at this point in time, and I think Errol Spence is going to prove everybody wrong. I don't know if Blair COBBS has done enough to garner one of these big fights from one of these big fighters, because Errol Spence is going to, after he gets past YORDENIS UGAS, or YORDENIS UGAS beats Errol Spence, they're going to be looking to fight Terence Crawford for undisputed, and rightfully so. And the winner for undisputed, and Terence Crawford going to be looking to fight the winner of that fight. His best bet is to go the route of Terence Crawford, because Terence Crawford doesn't have anything set in stone right now. So let's see how this unfolds and plays out. But that's all I got for y'all, man. Make sure you hit the like button, drop the comment in the comment section. Let me know what y'all think. Y'all already know what it is. It's your boy Blue Blood Sports TV. Hate, like, comment, and subscribe. You haven't subscribed, hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, hit the bell icon to get all the new notifications. Follow me on Instagram at Blue Blood Sports TV, all one word. Y'all already know what it is. Shout out to the entire LDBC. Shout out to New Media. Shout out to Black Media Row. Make sure you like and share these videos. That's all I got for y'all. Peace.